Welcome back to the channel, people. Today we're diving deep into some heavy stuff. We're talking about Africa, but not the Africa you see on those voluntourism ads. This is about the Africa where leaders get taken out like a bad Tinder date, mysteriously gone, and everyone's whispering about who did it. Today we delve into the tragic stories of African leaders whose lives were cut short, often with the involvement of Western powers. These leaders were targeted for their anti-colonial stances, socialist policies, or threats to Western interests. We're going to unpack why these leaders were seen as a threat, how they were silenced, and the ripple effects their deaths still have today. Buckle up, because this is a history lesson they don't teach you in school. This is the real deal, the underbelly of international politics where things get messy, and the truth? Well, the truth is often buried deeper than a Kardashian's deepest secret. First up, we're headed to the Congo, the heart of Africa. This is where we meet Patrice Lumumba, a charismatic leader who dared to dream of a Congo free from Belgian rule. Imagine that, a country actually run by its own people. Crazy, right? In 1960, Lumumba became Congo's first prime minister. He was all about unity, about the Congolese people taking control of their own destiny, their own resources. But see, that didn't sit well with everyone. Belgium, they weren't too keen on giving up their cash cow, their diamond mine, their playground. And the West? Well, they weren't fans of Lumumba's socialist leanings. Socialism in Africa, that's scarier than a spider in your bathtub to them. The Cold War was in full swing, and the West saw Lumumba as a potential communist puppet. Never mind that he just wanted what was best for his people. So what happened? A coup orchestrated by Western powers ousted Lumumba from power. He was arrested, tortured, and eventually executed by a firing squad. Just like that, the Congo's hope for true independence was snuffed out. Ghana, the Gold Coast they used to call it, and leading the charge for independence was Kwame Nkrumah, a man with a vision of a united Africa, free from colonial shackles. Nkrumah, he wasn't playing around, he was all about Pan-Africanism, uniting the continent, building a powerhouse. In 1957, Ghana gained its independence with Nkrumah as its first president. He was a champion of socialism, believing in economic equality and social justice. He poured resources into education, healthcare, and infrastructure. Ghana was on the rise, becoming a beacon of hope for the rest of Africa. But guess who wasn't happy about this? You guessed it, the West. Nkrumah's socialist policies, his close ties with the Soviet Union, his fiery speeches against imperialism, it was all a bit too much for them to handle. So what did they do? They pulled the strings, backed a military coup in 1966 and overthrew Nkrumah while he was on a peace mission to Vietnam. Talk about irony. Nkrumah lived the rest of his days in exile, his dream of a united Africa shattered. Hold on tight, because we're about to dive into the tangled web of Cameroon's struggle for independence. In this corner, we have Felix Mung, a fierce advocate for the unification of French and British Cameroons. He envisioned a country free from colonial rule, where all Cameroonians could live in unity and prosperity. Sounds reasonable, right? But France had other plans. They weren't too keen on giving up their grip on Cameroon, especially with its valuable resources and strategic location. Mumi and his party, the Union of the Peoples of Cameroon, posed a direct threat to their colonial ambitions. So what did they do? They resorted to a classic tactic: eliminate the leader, crush the movement. In 1960, while Mumi was in exile in Geneva, a French agent slipped a lethal dose of poison into his food. Just like that, one of Cameroon's most prominent independence leaders was silenced. His death sent shockwaves through the independence movement and cast a long shadow over Cameroon's future. Chapter 4. Ruben Umnioba, the Lion of Cameroon silenced. We're sticking with Cameroon for a bit, but this time we're going back to the roots of the independence struggle. Meet Ruben Umniobi, a charismatic leader who ignited the flames of resistance against French colonial rule. He was a true revolutionary, a man of the people, fighting for their right to self-determination. Niobe founded the Union of the Peoples of Cameroon, a political party that challenged French authority and demanded independence. He mobilized the masses, inspiring them to rise up against oppression. The French, they tried everything to silence him: imprisonment, exile, you name it. But Niobe, he was like a phoenix, always rising from the ashes. In 1958, the French decided enough was enough. They tracked Niobe down in the dense forest of Cameroon and assassinated him. His death was a major blow to the UPC and the independence movement. It's a reminder that when you dare to challenge the status quo, the powers that be will stop at nothing to silence you. Chapter 5, Sylvanus Olympio, the price of defying France in Togo. Let's take a quick trip over to Togo, where we meet Sylvanus Olympio, a visionary leader who dared to stand up to France's neo-colonial grip. Olympio, he was all about economic independence, about breaking free from the chains of French control. He wanted Togo to chart its own course, to control its own destiny. In 1960, Togo gained independence with Olympio as its first president. He implemented policies to boost Togo's economy, reduce its dependence on France, and promote national development. He even went so far as to create Togo's own currency, a big no-no in the eyes of France. Olympio's independence streak didn't sit well with the French. They saw him as a threat to their interests, an obstacle to their neo-colonial ambitions. So, they orchestrated a coup in 1963, using disgruntled Togolese soldiers as pawns in their game. Olympio was assassinated in cold blood, with dreams of a truly independent Togo shattered. Chapter 6. Mehdi Ben Barka, the Moroccan Enigma, and the Shadow of France. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're about to enter the world of espionage, intrigue, and political assassinations. This is the story of Mehdi Ben Barka, a Moroccan opposition leader who dared to challenge the Moroccan monarchy and its close ties to France. Ben Barka was a charismatic figure, a vocal critic of King Hassan II and his pro-Western policies. He advocated for social justice, democracy, and pan-Arabism, ideas that threatened the established order. In 1965, Ben Barka was abducted in broad daylight from the streets of Paris, vanishing without a trace. His disappearance sparked international outrage and implicated both Moroccan and French intelligence agencies. While the exact circumstances of his death remain a mystery to this day, it's widely believed that he was assassinated, his body disposed of, and the truth buried deep within the corridors of power. Chapter 7. We're heading south to Mozambique, a country grappling with the brutal realities of Portuguese colonialism. This is where we meet Eduardo Mondlane, a brilliant scholar and revolutionary leader who dedicated his life to liberating his homeland. Mondlane founded the Mozambique Liberation Front, or Frelimo, a movement that united Mozambicans from all walks of life in the fight against Portuguese rule. He believed in armed struggle, but also in diplomacy, advocating for a peaceful transition to independence. In 1969, Mondlane's fight was tragically cut short. He was assassinated by a parcel bomb, a cowardly act that shook the foundations of the Mozambican liberation movement. While the Portuguese denied any involvement, many believe they were behind the assassination, eliminating a leader who posed a significant threat to their colonial grip. Chapter 8. Get ready for another tale of resilience, resistance, and ultimately tragedy. This time we're in Guinea-Bissau, where Amilcar Cabral, a visionary leader, led a remarkable struggle against Portuguese colonialism. Cabral was a man of action and intellect. He co-founded the African Party for the Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde, or PAGC, a movement that combined armed struggle with social and economic development. He believed in empowering the people, building schools, clinics, and a sense of national unity. In 1973, on the cusp of victory, Cabral was assassinated. The circumstances surrounding his death remain murky, but many fingers point to Portuguese agents seeking to decapitate the liberation movement. Despite his untimely demise, Cabral's legacy lived on, inspiring generations of freedom fighters. Chapter 9. Hold on to your hats, because we're about to meet a true revolutionary, Thomas Sankara, the iconic leader of Burkina Faso. Sankara was a man in a hurry, determined to lift his country from poverty, corruption, and neo-colonial dependence. In just 4 years as president, Sankara transformed Burkina Faso. He implemented radical social and economic reforms, promoting self-reliance, empowering women, and challenging the status quo. He was a thorn in the side of Western powers, denouncing neo-colonialism, refusing to pay back illegitimate debts, and aligning Burkina Faso with the oppressed. Sankara's revolutionary zeal and unwavering commitment to social justice made him a target. In 1987, he was assassinated in a coup orchestrated by his former friend and comrade Blaise Compaoré. The coup, widely believed to have been backed by France, ended Sankara's short but impactful reign, leaving behind a legacy that continues to inspire. Fasten your seatbelts, because we're about to embark on a journey shrouded in mystery and suspicion. This is the story of Samora Machel, the revered leader of Mozambique, whose life was tragically cut short in a plane crash. Machel was a towering figure in the fight against Portuguese colonialism and apartheid South Africa. He led Mozambique to independence in 1975 and became its first president, dedicating his life to building a just and equitable society. In 1986, Machel's presidential plane crashed in South African territory, killing him and many of his top aides. While the official investigation blamed pilot error, many believe it was a deliberate act of sabotage orchestrated by the apartheid regime. The truth, like the wreckage of the plane, remains buried, fueling speculation and casting a long shadow over southern Africa. Hold on tight, because we're diving into the turbulent world of Libyan politics and the West's intervention in the region. This is the story of Muammar Gaddafi, a complex and controversial figure who ruled Libya for over 4 decades. Gaddafi was a man of contradictions, a revolutionary leader who implemented social welfare programs, invested in infrastructure, and challenged Western imperialism, but also ruled with an iron fist, suppressing dissent and committing human rights abuses. In 2011, amidst the Arab Spring uprisings, NATO intervened in Libya, ostensibly to protect civilians, but also to further Western interests in the region. Gaddafi was overthrown and brutally killed by rebel forces. His regime toppled, and Libya plunged into chaos. Was it a humanitarian intervention or a regime change operation? The debate rages on. Let's shift our focus to the struggle against apartheid in South Africa and the brave individuals who risked their lives to dismantle this brutal system. This is the story of Dulcie September, an unassuming but fearless anti-apartheid activist who paid the ultimate price for her beliefs. September was a representative of the African National Congress, ANC, in Paris, working tirelessly to expose the atrocities of apartheid and garner international support for the liberation movement. She was a thorn in the side of the apartheid regime, tirelessly campaigning for sanctions and exposing their human rights abuses. In 1988, September was gunned down outside her office in Paris, becoming a victim of the apartheid regime's ruthless campaign to silence its opponents. While the exact details of her assassination remain shrouded in mystery, it's widely believed that South African agents, possibly with the complicity of French intelligence, were behind her murder. Our final stop takes us to Kenya, where we delve into the Mau Mau uprising. a pivotal moment in Kenya's struggle for independence from British colonial rule. This is the story of Dedan Kimathi, a legendary Mau Mau general who became a symbol of Kenyan resistance. Kimathi was a charismatic and fearless leader who rallied his people against British oppression. He led the Mau Mau fighters in a guerrilla war against the British, fighting for land, freedom and dignity. The British, they demonized the Mau Mau, portraying them as savages, but Kimathi, he became a symbol of resistance, of a people unwilling to bow down. In 1956, Kimathi was captured by the British and sentenced to death. He was hanged in 1957, his body buried in an unmarked grave. Despite his execution, Kimathi's legacy lived on, inspiring generations of Kenyans to fight for justice and equality. So there you have it, folks. A glimpse into the dark underbelly of history where power, greed, and Cold War paranoia converged to eliminate those who dared to challenge the status quo. These leaders, they weren't saints, but they were fighting for their people, for a better future, for a different Africa. These leaders' deaths had profound impacts on their nations, often leading to the installation of pro-Western governments, policy reversals, or long-term instability. Their stories are a stark reminder of the human cost of imperialism, of the lengths to which powerful nations will go to protect their interests. But their legacies, however, continue to inspire the fight for true independence and justice in Africa. They remind us that the fight for freedom is never easy, that it comes at a price, but that it's a fight worth fighting. So, let's honor their memory by continuing to speak truth to power, by challenging injustice wherever we see it, and by working towards a world where all people are free and equal.